Hey, thanks for checking out Live on Tape Delay, episode 212 in Western New York. I'm Chris Wilson. On the other end of the internet, John Raybeans Raycroft and Robert Fiasco.
This episode is an interactive episode for what we call, air quotes, copyright reasons. So please sit back and enjoy this interesting interactive podcast experience.
It takes two to tango, and that's us and you, and that's four people, and I don't know, it's weird. Here's 212, and you'll now be a King Diamond fan. Enjoy.
18 is not.
What's up, man?
What's up?
Nothing, I'm excited. I'm excited for tonight.
That's weird.
I know, but I've forgotten how much I loved this goddamn album until I had to listen to it. It's weird. Usually I hate this.
That's how I'm going to get you to like a bunch of albums. I'll just pick them for topics.
Yeah, that has not worked in the past. You have to pick. See, this is the trick. You have to pick albums that I liked 20 years ago.
Gotcha.
And then make me revisit them, and that's how it works. But that's why I'm curious. I mean, without going into too much stuff here until we get Ray in. I mean, when did you first hear this album? Because I have a weird connection to this album anyway.
I was thinking about that earlier, and I just don't know. I know at some point in my life I had to have heard this album for the first time. Mm-hmm. I do know that I saw, and I might sneeze here, so yeah, it's coming.
All right.
It came. I do know that I first heard of King Diamond when I saw a video for Nightmare Be Thy Name on Headbangers Ball.
Riki Rachtman. We haven't mentioned him in a long time.
Oh, there we go. There's a Riki Rachtman in there for you. It was for the album Time, and I believe that was 95.
Okay.
And from there, Chris Lee had a job, I think, at that point. So he started going to the Wall or Camelot or whatever it was called, and he was buying up Merciful Fate stuff, and I think that maybe led into the King Diamond stuff.
Okay.
So I assume once we started listening to his work that we just did whatever we had to do for someone to get a copy of each of his albums.
Okay.
So I figure it must have been around 95.
Okay. I wasn't that far behind then. I was trying to think of this. It was late October or early November. It must have been 97. Then I'm thinking of this, that we made a trip to Erie, PA, down to the used record store Disco Round. I think that is long since gone.
Aww.
And I'm not 100% sure of that. I haven't been to Erie in years. But
okay.
So I go in and I'm like, hey, guys, is this any good? Hey, guys, is this any good? I literally was picking shit off the wall, and I tried to find my copy of it because I know it still had the sticker price inside. They used to put the sticker under, like, where the CD was. But on this day, I bought King Diamond, The Eye, and I bought Dream Theater, Images and Words. Two albums that have since basically changed. That was a very good day in my musical listening career. That was
when we were trying to mold you.
Yeah, and it worked with those two albums. It failed subsequently over the last 22 years, but that day, I'm just like, hey guys, this looks cool. It's purple. Should I get this one? Oh yeah, get that. Okay. But I want to say I paid like $5.99 for it.
Right.
Like, wasn't that usually the price of that shit?
Because we're probably like, yeah, we're getting them to buy metal.
Maybe. I'm just sitting there going, I got $12. I can get two albums. This place is great.
I know. It was a great place. I used to love going there.
So, but that's why, and we've probably mentioned here before, that's why when it starts getting cold up here in the fall, it's King Diamond weather, it was because of this album and when I bought it. So there's
just something to be said for the fall weather in the Northeast that I think you have to experience to even know what it feels like.
Yeah, fall I like. Even the first little bit of snow, I don't mind. It's that February, March when it's still 10 degrees outside and you're still fucking shoveling. That's what gets me.
Yep.
I'm curious because you, Ray, did not hear this album prior to this assignment, correct?
Correct.
We got
I
a
didn't know it was an album until I heard about this assignment.
Okay. Were you familiar at least with King Diamond?
Yes, I listened to Abigail, and
Okay.
I listened to some Merciful Fate and some other miscellaneous King Diamond stuff that Spotify recommended to me, but never anything from this album.
I'm sure I forced him to listen to it on an occasion or two.
Much like you got me 20 some years ago.
You know, if I can make money forcing people to listen to music.
Well,
I mean,
It would be the Bill
feel-
Cosby of music.
I was going to say we'll get into that. You don't want to Father Picard anybody. I don't want to jump ahead. But I don't know. Do we want to dive into? It's going to be a long night, I think. Not for you listeners, just for us. We're dedicated.
We are dedicated. We love you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the devil's music.
Hell yeah.
If you're not into metal, and even if you actually, let me say this, if you're not open-minded, then you probably won't enjoy this episode. But if you've always thought that like metal was like Metallica or screamy stuff or just not musical in any way, like give this a listen and maybe it will change your mind.
And here's the other side of this too: is since the copyright police are not going to allow us to actually play this and then talk about it. If you're not a King Diamond fan, as I mentioned before, it doesn't mean you can still listen to this episode. You will hear no King Diamond in this episode. However, we encourage you, if you're able, don't do it while you're driving, might be confusing, to listen along with some other playback device, and we're going to kind of go through it track by track and maybe give you
You can
some
find it
insights.
on Spotify or YouTube.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure you have a streaming device. If not, just go to YouTube.
I'm just saying, because you got to listen to us and that at the same time.
Right.
Yes. Yeah,
So-
so get like a good like Russian Imperial Stout that's like 12 or 14% and
Yeah.
buckle down.
Yeah, I did kind of skip over the most important part. But anyway, way back on October 30th, 1990, we were blessed with King Diamond's The Eye.
So that was his fifth album solo.
I
Because
bel-
what there was Fatal Portrait, Abigail, Them, Conspiracy, The Eye. So yes,
Correct. And little
And they-
side note, if you Google King Diamond discography and you get the list of albums across the top, this album is not on that list. I was pissed.
That is odd.
I had to do one more click to get to it.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
So it's his fifth album solo. It's his what they do with Merciful Fate. 1, 2 really official albums. So really is like seventh studio album by this point. So by 1990, I think like they really were at their peak, and this lineup had been fairly consistent. So of course, Andy LaRock's been with them, most of the way, if not all the way. But Pete Black and Hal Patino, so like the basic guitar section
Yeah.
had been together since them. So this is the third album together. It's also 1990, so you're having these guitar albums that are just fucking amazing. Like,
Right.
I mentioned Justice for All came out in 88 or 89. Rust in Peace was 90. You had, Dream Theater coming out a couple years later. You had Yngwie and Tony McAlpine and just all these people shredding.
Right.
Like thrash was at its peak, kind of. This was peak metal years. And I think as a result, this album has been severely overlooked
Well,
as a staple in metal history.
And I agree, and I think, and maybe this is geeking out too early here, the guitars, I love the sound of the guitars in this album, but they're not indicative of what guitars sounded like on other 89 to 91 albums. They almost sound 70s if you really think. They don't have that hissy, crunchy, in your face, part your hair kind of thing. They're more rounder undertone. I'm talking with my hands,
Yeah.
but does that kind of make any sense?
I'd say maybe the sound,
Yeah.
but the riffs itself
Sure.
are not. They
No, no,
are,
no.
yeah.
Yeah.
Modern, very neoclassical influenced on a lot of them. Like I sat and listened to the album and had to remove King
Sure.
from the song. and which was very difficult to do.
Right.
To just listen to the actual, riffs and the song structure.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, holy shit, this album is really fucking good.
Right.
I've just always been listening to King because he's so, the forefront of the
Right.
band and all over the place. And you're listening to what he's doing because it's so amazing. Like, I never just sat and was like, these riffs are amazing.
Right.
And this is on par with any of the other albums that came out, around that time in that genre.
Yeah, and I do think a part of that is because they're not throwing it in your face with
No.
the mix. You know what I mean? It's more
Right.
of it.
Exactly.
Outside of there's like 30 solos in this album. We'll get into that when we do the track by track. But outside of that, they're foundational. But yeah, you're right. It's if you can dig down and actually listen to them, you're like, huh, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
So anything else off the top here before we actually...
It was recorded at Sweet Silence Studio in Copenhagen, Denmark. I don't know much about that studio or anything else they may have done. Recorded July to August 1990, which is weird because you said it came out in October.
Yeah, October 30th.
So that was a quick turnaround from completion to release date. That's crazy. Maybe that's why the album art is so awful.
I'll get into that. It's alluring though.
It's why, today I just finally looked at it and was like, oh, it's the necklace with the eye.
Uh-huh.
Why is it on this purple velvet background?
Yeah, and I can't get over, I haven't seen it yet, but the chain itself is laying in some shape. I don't know. It's too, I don't know. It looks like a weird ghost that a 4-year-old would make.
It looks like they laid it on a table and took a picture of it and then pulled out the background and replaced it with that background.
I think it's all
it's
all just digital or hand drawn or something.
It's not good.
No, but I like it. But it's close to my heart.
Sure, but if you look at the album artwork for Abigail or Them.
Oh, sure.
Conspiracy wasn't that great either. It was just King's face. So that's kind of weird. But there is not a lot on the interwebs for research on this album. I didn't find any interviews from any of the band members promoting this album or anything.
Right.
I found one performance from July 1990, so it would have been before the album came out, in Copenhagen, which makes sense if they were recording there.
Sure.
And they actually played The Eye of the Witch, and the fans were just like, what is this? Like fans do with a new song.
Right. Well, it's because it's got that extra beat or whatever. But yeah, we're skipping ahead there.
Yeah, we're skipping that. We'll go into that. But that's what I have for the prologue.
The only other one thing I wanted to mention was this has been notoriously kind of beat on of it's electronic drums. It was a drum machine, not a drum machine, but it was an electronic kit, which.
I would assume was rather rare, maybe. Well, Phil Collins and stuff was probably using that in the 80s, right?
But they didn't sound. They didn't sound like
real
drums. And these, only after knowing that it was an electronic kit can you hear it and go, all right, I'll buy it.
Like everything sounds perfect.
But it's just they're all kind of the same because the technical term, the velocity of all the stuff, how hard you hit it. Now
doesn't matter.
There's different samples that'll play to make it sound like, you tap on a snare drum light, it's going to sound one way. You snap, you really hammer on it, it's going to sound a different way. The old school, and I don't know how old, but the old school drum kits they would get softer or louder, but the tone wouldn't change.
Right.
So, and you kind of pick that up in this snare on this, but it was only kind of after I knew that did I really pick up on it. So
sure, same.
I just want to mention it, but I don't think that detracts from the album at all.
I didn't pick up how good the guitars were, and I'm a fucking guitar player. So, with that being said, it's got I thought the guitar sounds on Conspiracy are excellent. The overall production on Conspiracy is excellent. The guitars might sound great on Them. I won't know. It's in my top 5 list of albums that have horrible production.
We've all heard that. I know. I listened to that.
Right
I
up
listened to
there
a little
with
bit of that tonight
Baroness
too.
and that one Lamb of God album, and that one Metallica album.
For all different reasons too. Anyway,
Yeah. Let's get into it.
all right,
I'm ready.
cool. Track 1, appropriately named "The Eye of the Witch." I'll take you through kind of this is very theatrical, which doesn't surprise me with King. It starts off with our narrator kind of letting you know what's sort of happening here. He's got this necklace, and it's magic. He's not sure how or why, but anytime he kind of looks into it, it's sort of sucks him in, and he relives anything this piece of jewelry has seen. Is essentially how this kind of opens. So it's like, oh, there's this is the power it has, and this is the necklace, and then we'll proceed from there. So anyway, he lets you in on it.
So, does he say where he found this necklace?
Unknown, just in his possession. That comes
Right.
up. That comes up 3 more times. That's a recurring theme here.
Gotcha. So, King is kind of, because this whole story is based on, true things that happened back in the 1640s.
Even before,
So he kind of ties
late
it.
1400s in our first act.
Right. So he's kind of tying this story all together with this necklace kind of thing, which is kind of cool. The song itself, I have tried numerous times to figure out what time signature that part of that riff is, and I can't do it.
It's I don't know if it's a measure of 5/4 in there every once in a while, or if it's just they just add a 1/4 in to fuck you up. But when we saw them on the Voodoo tour in '98, I think it was, watching all the drunk people around us try to headbang to this song was one of the funniest things that I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's maybe it's a 1/4 thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just
I was trying to time it out. I could not figure it out. So if anyone knows and you're listening, let us know at LOTD Podcast on the socials.
And a heads up, they haven't listened to it yet. So beware, try to headbang to this song, but don't injure yourself, and don't yell at us when you sprain a neck muscle.
Maybe they already know this album and they're just listening to it to hear our thoughts.
That could be true. There's 1 or 2 other people out there that have heard this.
But you'd mentioned the solos, and I'm sure the first one was Andy LaRock, just because what he does with like the trumbar, that kind of work, and it sounded like his solo. And then Pete Black, man, is an underrated guitar player. Like, I never really knew much about him, and I still don't. But it looks like he's been in some other bands, and there's some stuff on YouTube for those other bands. So look him up, and his guitar work is excellent. Man, I really wish he was going to be on the new King Diamond record, because like it's just 2 shredders. Like it's like a Dave Mustaine, Marty Friedman kind of, it's like having 2 really good guitar players, or even a cacophony or something, maybe, because I think both of those players are probably better soloists than Dave Mustaine. But
I'll give you that. And one other little thing I wanted to point out here too is I love the organ sound in this track. And in listening to this again, I realized that I think every sound that I tried to model for Desecrator, I think was trying to emulate this album.
that's amazing.
There's this, if you and me, and I don't know if Chris or Tony or somebody's going to listen, but if you listen to that kind of filter sweepy phasey organ that's kind of prevalent in this track, that's unconsciously what I was going for the Orphan Sarah. So
Yeah.
some inside baseball there.
It's, you can already tell, like, from the get go, some of the solos have that like neoclassical feel to it, and they're just shreddy. The guitar is catchy. The song is catchy. It really just brings you in and gets you ready for the rest of the album.
I wasn't prepared for how many different sounds there were in that song, as far as like riffs and like time changes, and the organ comes in, and it just felt like every time I was getting, okay, well, this is the groove of it. Oh, nope, now it's different now.
Right.
Oh, now it's this. Now it's this.
Yeah, I love it. It's made for people with short attention spans like me that love guitar noodling. You're like, oh, that riff is sweet. All right, guys.
But
It
it does set up kind of the tone of the rest of the album in the fact that the rest of the album is very motify. Right down, there's a riff for certain characters, and again, we'll kind of get into that. But
and a voice for certain characters, which is cool.
Exactly. So even the voices of King himself are not in this one. He's up there, but there's a lot of the album where he's a little lower. He's in lower registers. He's in that mid range.
Exactly. This is a very accessible album for someone that's new to King Diamond and Merciful Fate, or has maybe tried them before and is like, I just can't get into his voice. This is a great gateway album.
Yeah, it's not too kingy.
Right. It's just in some songs, I thought he sounded a little bit like Robert Smith of The Cure. So think about that as we listen to the rest of the album. I think I'll let you know. I think it might be Father Picard. I'm not sure.
That's further. But anything else to add to this one, John?
The one other thing is that it does, since it is a concept album and there's obviously themes that are going to flow throughout the entire thing, that first song does set it up to make it feel like every 1970s horror movie ever, especially with that organ piece. Like, it just made me feel like I was watching, like, Halloween or something.
Yeah.
Listening to it.
Right, and it's just, here's this thing, and it's, like I said, it's got a magic power, and I look in it, and I can see everything it's witnessed. Guess what's going to follow? Now I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing. So anyway,
bad things are coming.
Right. So I don't know if you're doing the dual thing or if you want to pause and go. By the way, I will put the timestamps in the show description. So if you need to ping pong back and forth, you can kind of get to where you are per track. I will do that for y'all.
That's very nice of you. This was released the night before Halloween. That's amazing.
So anyway, that's go listen to track 1, The Eye of the Witch.
It's so
All right, so track 2 takes us inside now, inside the eye. And from anything I could find, this is actually like late 1400s, early 1500s at this point, like the beginning of the witch trials.
Yeah, it could be.
Because it's still the following Jeanne d'Ibis, I'm going to fuck it up. But yeah, she was, I think, in the early 1500s. Basically, as the title would suggest, well, she's a witch. You're either God-fearing or you're a witch. For whatever reason, she finds herself in this situation where, you're a witch. We're going to torture and rape you until you say you're a witch.
Right. Which is so funny because that's what, like 1400s, so that's, 600 years ago, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
And that is obviously a crock of shit. I mean, there aren't witches around.
It's because they burned them all.
Yeah. I'm supposed to believe things from 2,000 years ago that were written or told to me. And stuff that even 400 to 600 years ago that people were saying was just flat out wrong. Like, no.
Yeah. But that was you didn't know any better. You didn't know any better. But no, that's the basic premise of this song is, we're going to rape and torture you until you basically say what we want because we don't like you for whatever reason. And they had all the power. They had...
So La Remy was one of the priests.
He was the head investigator of the burning court of France. There was a burning court. Let's start there.
Right.
A section of the government known as the burning court. And he was the head investigator. So if he said you were a witch, he's done his homework, you're a witch. And he did it by basically raping you into confession. What a gig.
And there's nothing, there's nothing you could do. Like, that's fucking horrible.
Right.
Like, for as amazing as this album is, like, this shit really happened to people, and it's gross.
Sure. And again, I think it's the names are accurate, but we don't know. But yes,
sure.
These are very broad brushstrokes of, I'm sure it happened this way.
Song-wise, I mean, once again, all over with tempo, riff-wise. I mean, just kind of, like you said, each character kind of has their own style behind them, both stylistically, vocally, and with the riffs and the beats behind them. So it's really cool. Yeah,
and when they really kind of get passionate to it, and again, it's very theatrical. And maybe that was one of my
I was thinking, Ray
well.
must love this. It sounds just like Les Mis, doesn't it?
It's exactly.
Because of the French names, yeah.
This is metal Les Mis, man.
They burned Jesus. They burned Cosette at the stake. What?
It's got music. It's got French people, of course.
It's exactly the same. But yeah, there's a couple riffs in there where it simply follows the vocal line behind it, like when they're really getting into it.
I wonder. So, I mean, and that's one thing that is I need to keep reminding myself is that King doesn't just write the lyrics; he writes a lot of the entire song.
Right.
Like he's a solid guitar player. Mm-hmm. Like if you listen to some of the reissues that came out, I think from maybe it was Metal Blade. They had bonus tracks, and they had ones where like King was playing the song along, on the demo track, which is cool. So I wonder if he wrote the riffs with the vocals in mind, or if the vocals sang to match the melody of the riffs.
Right. And a lot of times you hear a song like that and it's like, oh, it's all the same thing. There's not enough going on. But there was still, the beginning of this track comes in. There's, again, I key in on the keyboards kind of first, but there's these weird kind of, there's these kind of pads, these swelling pads in the background. And then when it goes down, there's a part where they're actually quoting some biblical verses. And it comes right down almost to a soundtrack. And there's just this organ thing in the background. It's very churchy. It's very, very preachy. But it leaves all this room for the words because it's not singing. It's spoken.
Right.
It's, and that's how like a musical would be, So
right.
I thought that was really cool. Or I think that's really cool.
The first solo, I couldn't easily identify which solo was which from which person, but that first solo sounded like it was kind of fretboard tapping to kind of. It wasn't really a solo, was more like an interlude, but that stood out as being kind of cool because it was kind of different. So,
well, and again, that's kind of a recurring style. I don't know if that's a theme, but a style in this too, where it's kind of not a call and answer, but here's a section, little guitar lick, like maybe you know, an 8 or a 16 beat solo, and then you go into the next section of the conversation almost that's happening in the in the chamber, I guess, wherever they're torturing the shit out of these people.
Yeah, I always like those songs that like would have part like the first line of maybe a verse, or maybe after the first 2 lines, then the guitar player would do some kind of crazy little lick and then go back into the second half. I was like, people that can do that well, I really like.
Yeah, and it almost, you know, it gives your brain time to, if you're paying attention to the story, it gives your brain time to kind of imagine what's happening in those first 2 lines. And then, okay, and now we're going to hit you with the second one. You know, now we're hitting you with, what is it, glowing needles and pins. And, okay, I get it now.
Right.
let that sink in while we play a little ditty here, you know?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Ray, additions, I don't mean to squeeze you out.
No, that's what you just said is exactly what I was thinking as we were listening to it there, and I was following along with the lyrics, because that's what I'm trying to do now that I've listened to it a couple times, and now we're going song by song, try to follow along with the lyrics, so you can kind of...
Can we talk about this for a second?
Yeah.
Every lyric site I'm checking is wrong.
Yeah,
they're terribly wrong, but it's close enough that I can follow along.
It appears
the person put glowing needles.
That's
you're what are glowing needles?
You're on
multiple sites.
You're on darklyrics.com, aren't you?
I was, but I left because I'm like, clearly they don't understand words. So
no, I think this was
a couple other sites. They're all the same.
I think this was transcribed by text to speech. That's real, or speech to text. These aren't all notes that you guys can see here. A lot of these are corrections to the lyrics.
That's amazing. You need to post a picture of that on Instagram, because it almost makes me want to just pay the money or throw it up on the LOTDpodcast.com site, just all the correct lyrics to the eye of everything.
Yeah.
I will do it because this is kind of annoying.
So,
I mean, it's not bad. I can figure out that glowing means glowing, but still, that's not how I want to read it.
In needle, you know, clowing, NEED apostrophe ES. I'm pretty sure it's needles, not needus.
Oh yeah, this one
Clowing needus
is needles. So,
but anyway, so that's, I don't know. So if you are also following along, good luck.
I'm on metalstorm.net, so they're not as bad.
Yeah,
I'm on genius.com, and they're close, but it's not quite.
It's like, come on, dude. They're already hard enough to understand sometimes. Like, you gotta do this to us too. Like, how hard is it? Look at the lyric sheet. I don't own a copy of this album anymore, sadly. It's now in my Amazon cart on vinyl because it was a reissue.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
I might have it on CD somewhere, but I used to also have it on cassette, and I probably had it on a dupe of a cassette or of a CD, because that's how I got most of my music when I was a kid, because I was poor. Was just influencing other people to buy albums that you wanted to hear, and then creating a tape copy off of their CD.
Right.
That's it, my friends. That's how you do it.
What a racket! You took me for a ride, you son of a bitch.
I heard all the albums I wanted to for free.
Anyway, kids, go check out the trial. Go listen to Jen get
Chambre Ardente.
Yeah, the Chamber Ardente. Go listen to her get tortured and raped, and yeah.
You stand accused before the burning court for practicing witchcraft. Do you confess? We have ways to make you talk. How do you plead? I've never done any harm to anyone. I don't believe this. Lead the witch to the dungeon for the test.
Well, now that Jean de Besson, that's more Cajun, has been
That's voodoo.
oh yeah, I'm in the wrong album. Has been convicted of being a witch. It's what's the next logical step? You got to burn her. You got to burn her at stake.
Now that we've raped the shit out of her, let's burn the evidence. Essentially,
Pretty much. I mean, that's
and we're like, God, that's so.
that's how they did it. You're a witch. This is the only way to get rid of you.
Like, and no one would question it because the priests and whatever
They ruled everything.
That's crazy.
So, but anyway, this is more of an upbeat kind of upbeat's the wrong one. Up tempo. This is the action song. It's also, at least in my mind, how I've structured this. This is the end of our act 1 here. So they're finally burning her at the stake here. At this point, you realize this is the third song. They even talked about the eye since King mentioned it back in track 1. Like, where's
He's
this?
still
where's
in it,
this
right?
thing?
He's still watching what's going on inside the eye.
He
correct?
is, but now we're inside the eye is telling him this story. This is what he's
But
witnessing.
you don't know exactly how the eye is seeing that or experiencing that, right?
Right, because you're like, well, wait a minute.
You don't know who's wearing it.
No, you don't know. It didn't. It wasn't mentioned at all in the trial because they're just basically beating and raping her. Well, this is the song in which the eye is the magic necklace. The eye is birthed, which is why it's the perfect end of the first act.
Right.
You get all the way down here. They're burning her. This, that, the other thing, and whether by magic or devil intervention or whatever, the line "lightning from the sky, magic's coming by," as the necklace flies right into her eye. We then jump down.
Nope. Mine says as her necklace flies height into her eye.
So does mine. But I've corrected it.
Okay, good. That makes way more sense now. I'm like, I don't even know how that's possible.
Skip a couple lines. The very last line is "burned in the night, just a magic chain." So that's all that's left. So this necklace was just a necklace owned by Jean de Besson up until this point. So
Gotcha.
now we've
That's cool.
infused it with her soul.
Song structure, like you said, it's very up tempo. I love the riffs during the "Burn in the Night, You're the Devil's Child" part. They always use, I don't know what those chords are called exactly, but they use them in like Abigail a lot too. Just really interesting, more so than your average like power chords, that brings a little something different to the song. So that really stuck out to me.
Our first solo is a violin solo. I actually meant to look this up because again,
was it real? Not real, right?
I don't know.
Or is it real?
I couldn't tell. Real?
Can't tell.
I don't know. There was no
Can
credits.
you get that good? I mean, it didn't sound like a real violin, but I'm like, well, can you make those sounds with like?
In 1990, it would have been harder than now, but I'm sure you could. But that led me to where is it? What's the origin of "The Devil Plays the Violin"? I mean, he's doing it here. Let him play his violin so wild. He went down to Georgia. I mean, what?
Yeah, he did.
Why does the devil play a violin? When did he have
violin
time?
a devil's instrument? I've never in any of my I went to Catholic school for a long time. Never did I see Satan depicted with a fiddle.
I know, like
that
why?
would be
But
fucking amazing.
But again, this I don't know why that.
What if Satan's just a really good fiddle player and they were jealous, so they made him sound like he's a horrible person, but really he's just the best fiddle player ever to exist.
Till Johnny beat him down in Georgia. I mean, he rosined up his bow and he kicked the shit out of the devil. So it looks like Ray's got something.
So here's one rumor of where it potentially started is that, and I always get this guy's name wrong, is that apparently like back in the 1830s, they used to say that Niccolo Paganini, is that how you pronounce his name?
Paganini?
Yeah. That he was possessed by the devil because of how good he was at violin.
Wow. No, he was just good at playing violin.
Yeah. So then that
Paganini
kinda
sold his
inspired-
soul.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
So
It
why-
is stupid.
People were dumb.
That's all it takes, though.
I know. That's fake news.
So why did they
No,
say
it's-
why back in the late 1400s, early 1500s did they let
That's
the
true.
devil
That's
play?
before that.
Anachronistic. We found an anachronism.
Because the eye is telling him the story, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, maybe this. Yeah, I suppose this is. This isn't in quotations. Then again, I don't know how well I trust these lyrics, but it's not in quotations that say they say the devil is here tonight. Then let him play his violin. So it's not in quotes. So it could be interpretation.
The song did feel like a fire. Like it felt like unruly and hectic and
Yeah.
fast and constantly changing. And
Which is cool too, because the next one is so much different than what you hear on Burn. Like this takes a totally different feel. I guess that would be the start of Act 2, though, so it makes sense, right?
That's our. I don't want to jump to before we listen to it, but that's our entr'acte. That's our time. That's our time jump. Time jump. That's what I'm trying to say.
I was wondering. All right, good.
Any other notes on track 3, Burn, before we let the
I don't
kids
think
listen?
so.
it is interesting that they go from like they say the devil's here tonight, let him play the violin, and they constantly tell her she's a devil's child. And the last thing that ends is the lightning from the sky, the magic's coming by, and then she ends up with the magic necklace. Like,
yeah, so I'm not sure what's maybe they called upon something evil.
Exactly.
Or she just got struck by lightning, and that just sucks. This girl has the worst fucking luck ever.
Yeah, she's getting raped by priests and then gets struck by lightning.
Yeah.
That was
What
their
are the
understanding.
odds?
That was their understanding of science. Was things happen and it's magic.
It's the devil.
Yeah.
It's the devil.
Maybe this is the
that's
origin
bad.
of things happen for a reason.
Happy
anyway.
life, happy life.
All right. Track 3, go listen to Jen Dibasong get Burn at the Stake.
Inquisition will take you to the hill, waiting for the kill. Everybody's there, none of them will care.
So here with track 4, Two Little Girls, that just is weird to even say. This again, I picture as like kind of the it's the entr'acte. It's the time passage between Act 1 and
Right.
Act 2. There's
Correct.
some amount of time has passed.
Right.
I hope.
Yeah.
And this follows with a very haunting fucking these bells and low
That's
weird
supposed to be like
strings.
an elbow in the background or something.
There's some cello shit going on in there, and there's some
Right.
the bells, and then I don't know. It's weird. It's just creepy as fuck. Like when you hear a detuned piano, kind of, it has that haunted feel to
I'm
it.
sure like he just wrote it on like a single, doing the main piano line.
Oh yeah.
And then, then they added all the flair to that, but it's really cool and doesn't have any drums and guitars or anything.
Again, it doesn't
Kind
mean
of
to.
it kind of like instantly reminds me of like the Omen, like has an Omen feel to it because of one, the music, but two, it's crazy children. Not crazy yet, but but it reminds me of like horror movies like The Omen.
Well, it is. It's those high dingy little bells, whatever, which has that childlike quality to it. But then at the same, anyway, this again, some time has passed. There's a couple little kids out fucking just playing on the hill. No idea that they're playing on a former witch burning site. So they're digging around, playing. The only line that I couldn't come up with a good excuse for is the line that says, they seem to play an evil game, a game that doesn't have a name. I don't know what they're doing. I couldn't even come up with something there.
Kodorama.
Okay, it could have been
Pokemon
Kodorama.
Go. Pokemon Go.
Anyway, so they start
Right.
digging around, and lo and behold, they find the necklace.
Oh, they do.
It's been there since Jean de Besson was burned.
Son of a song.
The other thing I like about this song story-wise is, like I said, all it does is it gives you the idea that some time has passed, and it lets you know what the superpower of this necklace is. Because at this point, what do we know? We know that it was a girl was wearing it, and as she died, like basically her soul got infused into it. That's all we know.
Right.
So as it goes, the girls are playing, they're fighting over it as siblings, I assume, would do, and they looked into it. They die. They can't handle what the eye is showing them, which is obviously the rape and torture and whatever of Jean de Besson. I have to say it like that.
So both of them die?
It only says the one, but I don't know where the other one went. So I have to assume that they both died. I'm going to say that they're both dead.
Okay.
Does the story not continue with the? I don't remember for the next one 'cause I haven't read the lyrics yet, so I'm curious if they call back to this.
They really don't at this point, and I don't want to spoil too much here, but at this point,
Someone else has to get the necklace.
right, and it magically appears. Spoiler alert! It just magically appears. It never gets passed on. It never. Who knows? So let's go with that. Let's say the one girl dies, the other one takes it, and God knows what happens to it for another 50 years.
That's where it is, painful to go back and revisit some of these albums because you're like, oh, the storyline is not as deep as I thought
again,
it was
they
when
don't-
I was younger.
Right,
Yeah,
but they
maybe.
don't have to. Yeah, again, he's glossing into big stuff, and it's you know.
Right. Yeah.
And again, this is kind of from the narrator's point of view through the eye. He's seeing what happened to these girls because the eye's showing it to him. And his last little line there is cool, where he's like, I wish they could have seen beyond the ground they played on. Like, if you just would have known.
Well, because it's funny because I called it earlier when they say, if only they could see.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that little change, too, of tempo and kind of key there to, however that part of the song is probably my favorite part of the song.
Yeah. And then mixed with that change of tense, where you're right. If only they could see as they're in it. After they die, I wish they could have seen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that is the creepy, haunting melody of Two Little Girls.
This is where we get into, the next 4 songs for me are all bangers. They're fucking great.
It's Act 2, baby. Let's go listen to
They
Two
are
Little Girls, and
bops,
we'll
full-on
come back.
bops.
We'll come back in Act 2.
One Both of them are in the ashes at the stake where witches burn. If only they could see beyond the ground they play on. The girls are laughing still. They think they're having fun. They should be far away, watching the sun go down. One little girl picked up a necklace from the ashes of the witches. It had wings, and then the other cried out loud, "No, let me have it!" The other looked without a sigh, right into the witch's eye. The kind of horror that she saw made a joke forevermore. I wish they could have seen beyond the ground they played on. They would be laughing still, having the best of fun. They would be far away, watching the sun go down.
All right, let's jump to this. Has a definite year of 1625. So
Right.
again, if the earlier the Gen stuff was in the 1500s, there the girls find the necklace at some point between that. We now have a definitive date of 1625.
So at first I thought maybe Madeline was one of the two young girls and she'd still, so she had survived, but then seeing that she then finds it later in the song,
Yeah.
that is proven. I proved myself wrong. I was like,
Okay.
damn it.
Well, essentially, and this is based on a real person, Madeline Bavent. I have to do it that Bavent. Pronounce it however you will. Bavent.
Bavent.
As kind of a tawdry past. She, I guess, in real life had been seduced by a priest and potentially raped already. So, of course, where do you go to if you feel unclean? You go into
Church.
a convent. Yes, exactly.
Right.
A priest made you feel bad and did some bad stuff. Let's become a nun. That's the best thing you can do.
Right.
But times are different. So I guess whatever. So anyway, that's why she goes into the
Are they
convent.
though?
She's going to become a nun. She's going to feel better about herself. Gets there, meets Father David. Nice enough guy, not so much. Like she escapes to this, and Father David's doing the same thing she's running away from.
Right.
I love the line at communion, you must get undressed. Why did she go into the convent? Like this is what she's trying to escape, and she just ran right into the mouth of the thing.
Right. That's where I love like King's lyrics here because I mean I wrote lyrics for a while and I was always the trying to rhyme the lines kind of bullshit, and here he's kind of telling the story. So
Yeah.
like even though like it's like no one cared, no one ever will, her feelings are not shared, she wants to break the ends. This is like the first three stanzas, and then the last one he kind of changes it up a little bit and kind of extends it out. And he does that again with the why did she go, which is kind of cool.
Right, and it changes, so it's not like a greeting card. You know, it doesn't have that really. He changes up the whole riff changes, so you can change.
Right.
It's not like it has to be 4 or 6 or 8 lines. It's like, oh, we could start all over here. So yeah, that the structure of that is super cool. Going down again, just finding the story. She at some point, this is where the eye shows up again. She wakes up in the middle of the night. There it is. It's magically there in her bedroom. So all I can assume at this point is now this necklace is so magical that it's now basically an avenger for any girl getting hurt within the church system. And it's like, oh shit, this is supposed to happen. Because again, if this is the soul of Jean, it's like, oh, really? They're doing this again? Yeah. Put me on. Put me on. I got this for you. Like, yeah, I got this for you.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that.
So to make that idea work in the story, I'd almost say you'd have to have the little girl from the previous song have had become a nun at some point and
Ooh.
taken the necklace into the church, and then that's how it ended up there.
All right, we can go with that. There's no allusion to that, but I like it.
That's only because the necklace knew where it wanted to go, so it tricked the little girls into taking it. The one little girl survived, became a nun to make up for her friend dying, and that's how the necklace got there.
And she kind of just said, "Oh shit," and sort of threw it in the room. So she was saying, "You need this more than me, more than the necklace choosing where it goes."
No, the necklace chose where it went through the little girl. Use the little girl as a vessel to get itself to the convent. I'm really reaching here.
I like it. No, I like it.
I think it bridges the gap.
It's all up for interpretation until we can get King on here to let us know what the true story is. So we'll keep holding our breath. But anyway, she puts the thing on once it shows up in her the very next day. Exactly what's supposed to happen. Father David looks at it. He's dead.
Bye-bye.
Now, and this is where it's going back to my theory of the street justice necklace here. The very last line is, "Inside the convent, a soul will rejoice." Whose soul? Madeline's?
Jean.
Or Jean? I'm thinking it's Jean. The necklace has now had its chance at revenge against the system.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Musically.
I wish I was better at really describing some of the riffs were written, but once again, it's very, very staccato with the main riff and which is really cool. And then the actually Into the Convent kind of thing's a little different, a little more melodic. But even it's still got that real quick I can't even do that with my mouth. It reminds me of Lightning Strikes Twice.
Yeah, sure.
I guess Lightning Strikes Twice probably reminds me of this song because it's got that like kind of thing going on,
right?
Which I really like. It's real tricky to play. Like you got to make sure you're right. It's not an easy riff to make sure you keep up on because you can easily get off tempo with something like that.
Right, and it's just it's triplets over something else,
right.
So it fits very weird. But then once again in this, there's a Father David dialogue which you can kind of pay attention to. There's that extra beat or a missing beat or something in there where it gives that push feel, and it throws you off balance. So as he's speaking, you're like, I don't know what it is, but something ain't right. It's almost like it's knocking into you.
Yeah, there's we already talked about it earlier. In the first song, there's just some parts like that where like the riffs are just so cool because they do that kind of thing to kind of throw the listener off, and it's done really well.
Go ahead. I was going to make a solo comment.
Go ahead.
Of how I don't know why, but these hit me as very 80s, almost cock rock solos in a good way. I don't know, especially the second one, like right after she puts the necklace on. It has a Tesla feel to it, or so, you know what I mean? Something like that.
There was a lot of, I think, and that was the sign of the times, man. You did have bands like Tesla, Mr. Big, by like 90, Firehouse, maybe, Winger, that had really good guitar players in their bands and wrote really intricate songs, but also had that one hit that like To Be With You, like that's the only Mr. Big song when that doesn't sound like any of the people, like super talented artists. So, I could definitely hear some of that influence. It's just, like I said, if you take King's vocals out, this is one of the best metal albums in this genre for this era.
And again, for non-King fans in this, there's 2 or 3, stanzas, I guess I'll say, where he sings in more of a tenor almost than anything else. So he's not up in that falsetto. He's not doing a character voice, something like this. It's a very warm, I think it's the chorus is the Into the Convent, a smile on her face, into the darkness, the hide all her sin. That whole thing is like, oh, that's going to be his speaking voice. I now know what he sounds like.
I love his vibrato on that, and I don't know much about vocals. I wish I did to know, but it's like really pronounced in that part. And
it was
I like
before
that.
his nodes, so
shit's gonna hit the fan here.
Yeah, it is.
I do have a couple more things about this one before we do move on.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Into the
Is
convent.
the-
We're still in the convent.
Earlier, Rob made a comment about how
Would never.
how I obviously love this one because it's like Les Mis because it's got French in prison and things like that.
Okay.
Strangely,
I did say that.
there is a weird parallel of like the first part of Les Mis is, you know, he's gone through the trial and all that, and then he goes to the massive church and he gets the help from the church and it helps him rebirth himself. This is like the opposite end of that, where like she's also going to church for help, but she's not getting any help at all, and she's suffering from what the church was doing on the
Right.
back to the females at the same time.
Right. He got a good chaplain and she did not. She got the same shit that she was running away from.
And because everything I've talked about so far is related to a movie, you mentioned earlier the 80s-ish solos.
Mhm.
They also made me feel like 80s movie montage scenes. Like if this were made into a movie,
Oh,
I
interesting.
could so see that those solos and where they're placed in the song of like she's in there and my cross now, dear sister, in the name of, and then it goes into the solo, and then a montage of all the shit she's going through in the church, and then it goes to the next scene of you have to do this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just kind of gives you that pause of you can imagine all the things that are going on in that moment of that song because of where it's placed.
Right. It gives those couple lines time to breathe before they move the story on, and then it gives them time to breathe. Yeah. I like that. Well, anyway, go listen to In the Convent.
Madeline is running away from herself. A friend
All right. Well, now we move into Father David is now dead. Father David, the rapist. So we're bringing in a new guy. We're going to bring in Father Picard. Presumably not Jean-Luc, but nobody really knows. Father
No, I know.
Oh. Yeah, what was his name? It was like, it started with an M or something.
Yeah, Mathurin.
right.
Mathurin. Mathurin Picard. He was the nunnery's director.
After Father David passed. Well,
Yes.
So anyway, he comes in. He's promising new change. Comes in. I know some shit was going down. I'm sorry. He's trying to appeal to all the nuns there. He's like, look, it's going to be different. And what I like about this is when he's introducing himself, it's very soothing vocals. It's in a lower tone. The song is
Right.
very laid back of, I'm Father Picard. I'm taking over. Things will be different in here. He's very, very comforting. So you're
And
like,
then-
okay, cool. Then he turns right
Right.
around and he's like, by the way, it's not a crime. Come on over to my room. Every Sunday night around this time, we'll just hang out here. Just come on over to my room.
Right. It's almost like the angel and the devil, where it's like the angel part is the real like arpeggiated, like I'm Father Picard,
Right.
you know, like
The
and
soothing
then-
part.
Yeah, right, soothing part. And then when it gets to the more like, okay, yeah, like every Sunday this time we're gonna drink this wine and fucking get to it.
Yeah,
you know?
and he's sneaking some white powder of some sort, which
Roofies, gotta be roofies.
Apparently
I mean, there just
makes-
wasn't a name for it back then.
yeah, I know. It makes him horny. It makes him forget. And what was the other? Oh, and basically it lets him control their minds. I don't know if roofies do all
So-
that, but
Maybe so. I don't know. So in looking at the actual, I'm going to probably get this pronunciation incorrect as well, but the Louvier possessions, Madeline had claimed that she was bewitched by Picard because apparently he was kind of like dressing up and acting like the devil.
Yeah, and this was the true part.
Coercing her into thinking that her beliefs were questionable. And then when she started to question him, going, "Yeah, see, you're the devil."
right, and it's basically
Because you're
brainwashing.
questioning
Yeah, it's brainwashing.
Yeah.
You fuck somebody up, you get them high enough on whatever, if it's a
Right.
roofie or whatever this thing is, and then you're giving them a bad trip over and over and over again. They're gonna start believing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you don't know, again, as far as the story goes, you don't know yet really what Father Picard is going for. Like, you know that the guy before him was basically just a rapist. Like, no frills. Come on in. I'm gonna bone you.
Right.
Now this guy's a little more sinister in my book because now
Yeah.
he's luring you in. He's drugging you. He's
Yeah.
got some ulterior motives here as well.
The vetting process at this religious establishment is ridiculous. Let me tell you.
I don't think it's gotten better in the past 500 years.
No, probably not.
And
Yeah.
Picard, he's very specific. He only picks 4 of these girls. Madeline happens to be one of them. And again, this part is apparently true. There's record of this portion of it,
Right. Yeah.
But he only picks these 4 girls, and it's shown in the song, you are the
dumb-
4
the
God
dumb
has
ones,
chosen.
Right? Oh, says that wrong.
What's that?
Well, I could probably pick the most gullible, like easily influential ones.
Sure.
I would imagine.
Sure. Or the ones he thought were just that. Well, this one doesn't, again, spoiler, this one doesn't turn out to be sexual. Father Picard's thing isn't sexual, really. I mean, it is, but it's not.
No, he's just kind of, fucking people up by going, "Hey, I'm the devil."
Right. In order to make him, or in order to make them follow his bigger plan, which is unveiled further down the line.
Right.
But anyway, yes, there's a
He
story.
looks like
Father
David
Picard's drugging the
Koresh.
girls. So we already kind of talked about how when Picard's talking, it's very soothing and very
Right.
seducing, and no, I'm your buddy, and whatever else. You had a comment about the solos, and now I can't remember what they were.
I do not remember what they were, so I apologize.
All right.
Um,
Other than
But I
they're
mean, pretty-
ripping.
Yeah, they were good. They're straightforward. Just really, I think accurate. Not accurate. Well, they were accurate, but just compared to the other like kind of shred albums around this time, I mean, it's on par, which is when, once again, why if you can somehow listen, even if you're not a fan of King Diamond and you're a guitar player listening to this, like, go listen to the guitar work on this album. This is the best LaRock and Black sound together, I think. Like, they'd been together a few albums, and they really just nailed it on this one.
And again, I think you had mentioned at the tail end of the last song that this one was written by Pete Black.
Yeah, which is cool, because we talk about, okay, well, King sings following the melody. Well, in this one, I think he sang to the melody, not wrote the melody first, knowing he would sing that way, because it appears that Pete Black wrote the song. So
Right.
very cool. It's very fitting that that is my favorite song, because he's apparently very underrated. So
anyway, go
come on the podcast, Pete.
I know, Pete, King, we'll take any of you and just grill the shit out of you about this album.
One quick theory about the white powdery
sorry.
stuff.
Yes.
No, it's just one quick theory. So there's a couple things in there where he says, where'd it go? That it's on a regular basis. Every week they're going to do it. It says specifically the nuns freak out, lust in their eyes. Mm-hmm. So they're obviously awake and coherent.
Right.
Another thing is that in that Louvier's Possessions description, it says extreme seizures explained in the 17th century are today believed to point to epilepsy and similar diseases. Well, one of the side effects of really, really high doses of cocaine is convulsions, seizures, nausea, tremors and muscle twitches, paranoia, anxiety.
Everything that you just checked off half the boxes of what they considered possession.
And apparently cocaine use was very heavy in France in the 1600s.
Really?
Apparently. So I wonder if that was the drug of choice they were using to control them.
All of this stuff, you're just like, this was either mental illness or drug addiction. Like, like it's just, it's very sad that, 400 years ago, they just, science and technology was not there. So they had to have an answer. I'm sure they were under extreme pressure to provide some kind of reason why something was happening to someone.
Well, and the church was more powerful. The church was more powerful than government. So of course they're going to be the go-to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So if the father's feeding you cocaine, and you're starting to go crazy, it's because you're possessed by the devil.
Yeah, nothing to do with this white powder in the wine.
No, no, not at all. So go do a couple bumps with Father Ricard.
But keep that in mind as you go into the next songs.
Yeah, I like it. All right, now we get into my favorite song on the album of Behind These Walls.
It's a good one.
The harpsichord, I'm going to rehash this. The harpsichord influenced me in my playing of It's a Shame. How is this
That's what I
not
was gonna
It's a
say.
Shame? Patch number A7 on my Roland D5 that I did was the harpsichord part for It's a Shame. I named KDMF Harpsy. Because of this is what I was trying to get to, and then I delayed the fuck out of it. And the organ behind all this stuff, this was, in my head, what Desecrator should have sounded like. Or what I should have been able to do for the band. That's what it is.
If you're really into this episode for some reason, and thank you, and you want to know what we're talking about, go to YouTube and search Desecrator. It's a Shame, and you'll find this actual song that you can compare to this next one.
Story. We go back
Hey.
to the narrator now. Narrator's kind of, he's still watching what's going on in the eye, but he's just kind of seeing what he's seeing. These girls are high as fuck. They have no idea what's going on, walking around as zombies in a stupor. The line, she can't see any of the other nuns. Is she blind or is it in her mind? Followed a couple lines later of all the birds are singing, but Madeline can't hear their song. They're all just zombies at this point.
Right.
So under the control of the cocaine or whatever that John's saying, plus all the whatever they're doing to these girls under the influence, their minds are broken. But he's asking the question, what is going on? He's not just getting them high to get them high. Like, well,
Right.
where's this going? What's going on? And that's the recurring line in the thing. So, all right.
I also just realized that they haven't mentioned the eye in 2 songs.
This is true. This is still
So
build up, still building up
still kinda
Madeline's
looking
story
through it.
here.
But she already killed somebody with the eye,
Yeah, to
and a
get
soul rejoiced.
and in the soul rejoiced back when it killed David. Now we've got Father Picard. Now we go back to the narrator for a little more info of what's happening with the girls. It's I bet the eye's coming.
Musically, man, this is fine bass work from Palpatino. You can just hear that. It's just real subtle stuff like that under the what's going on. He's kind of doing like a boom, 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 boom kind of thing, which sounds really sweet. Just the bass work on this track is fantastic. So if you're a bass player, pay extra attention to that. Once again, you're back in there. You get the gallopy, the classic metal gallopy riffs and some of the staccato kind of stuff going on, which is really cool. And you were kind of mentioning earlier, kind of reminded you of Maiden in some parts.
That's one of my notes. Is almost Maiden, i.e. triplet bass. It has a very and again you kind of hit on that already. It has that very Steve Harris, that Maiden gallop.
Yeah, and it fits well. And they had some of their, like I said, those other chords that I've heard and some of the Abigail stuff. Like I don't know what they're exactly called, but they're adding a couple extra notes there to kind of give it just that extra emphasis and not sound like your basic gallopy riff, which is really cool.
Right. Just your chug away.
Yeah.
Another song, the riffs follow the vocal melody or vice versa.
Yep.
It's just a great tune. I like
That's a
how
great
it
song.
all, from the keyboard standpoint, and maybe this is why I liked it, it's not doing a whole lot, but it's adding a whole lot. There's a lot of
Right.
just, hold this chord for 8 beats. Hold this one for 8 beats. Hold that one for 8 beats. Oh, now you're going to go 4, 4, 2, 2, 2. That kind of thing where it's as it changes down.
And that makes me wonder if, like, okay, King came up with the intro line there, and then all the other stuff was added by the engineer and producer, Robert Falcao, because I know he also did keyboards on the album.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was kind of stuff that he added to kind of fatten it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't know, did he get writing credits or did he just get playing credits? I didn't actually dig that deep.
Probably, I
think he
he's
had a-
credited on, not credited on Two Little Girls, but did have some writing on that one. That's the only one, according to the Wikipedia track listing.
But I
he's
know he
noted
did
on.
play a lot of it.
But I assume, like, you don't get writing credits by adding some keyboard chords to an already existing song.
Right.
So.
You get it by saying this is a banging tune and I can take it from, 105 to 110%.
Right. Yep. So he added that garnish.
That garnish, baby, that I always sought out. So,
That's
anybody have anything else
Well
to
done.
add to Behind These Walls before we send the listeners to it?
Oh man, you're gonna enjoy this one. It's a good one. Just get ready. Well, there's not a lot of lyrics, but that was a
Yeah,
lot of
It's a
music.
quickie. All right, go for it. Behind These Walls.
Walking in the garden, picking flowers in the sun. Madeline is on her own. She can't see any of the other nights. Is she blind? Or is it her mind? What's going on? What's going on behind these walls? What's going on? All the birds are singing, but Madeline can't hear their song. Memories of screams in the night. Morning coming from below, where the prison cells are gone. She does not understand what's going on. Now the bell is ringing, communion time has come again. Is Father Picard really a friend? The Bible in her hand reminds her of the right. The silence has been Christ. What's going on? What's going on behind these walls? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on behind these walls?
All right, now we get into, we find out what Father Picard has up his sleeve at this point. We go into the meetings.
Secrecy.
Yeah, there's 7 of them now. The 4 nuns, and that's why I said this guy's math is right on. They've already mentioned specifically the 4 nuns. We've got Father Picard and 2 other random priests in this. So we've got
Right.
7 people are involved in this. He really should have made
Sex
it. He
cult.
really should have made it 9. But yeah.
Yeah,
So
right.
secret meetings. This is where they're being brainwashed. This is where they're drugged up. One line is Madeline is at the gate, hazy feeling in her brain. This is where they're
Yeah,
going in.
that's your high.
Yeah, you're hammered. This is where they're pretending they're demons and boning them through,
Exactly.
and you know, and again and again, that line comes up again and again. This isn't the first meeting. This isn't the last meeting. This has been going on over and over and over again. So this is the conditioning. This is the brainwashing that's
Right.
happening. Skip down. The very last piece of this, and I'm not sure where all of a sudden this comes in, but the point of this is they're bringing babies in and they're crucifying babies. Where did this come from? Like, is this Picard thinks this is going to bring him, this is what he's supposed to be doing, sacrificing babies? I don't know.
Probably. It makes sense.
I guess. Somehow it
With
makes
everything
sense.
else that's going on, that makes sense.
But
Like, there is a conspiracy theory about like the blood of infants or whatever and extending people's life and all that. So
all right.
there's that aspect of it too.
The according to the Louvier possessions on Wikipedia, it wasn't babies. It was two men. This part had actually happened according to the nuns that they'd interviewed. It was two men that were crucified and disemboweled under the direction of Picard. But I don't know, for the sake of the story, and it also happened later than what. Anyway, it doesn't. The years don't have to add up. They're within 10 years of each other. For the sake of the song, let's go. But yeah, I like the imagery and the gross outedness of nailing a baby to the wall.
Musically, it's an Andy LaRock song all the way. I mean, the one part of it, like where it kicks off into that main riff, sounds very Conspiracy. Like it could have fit on Conspiracy. But like the main kind of verse riff, that like that could have been on Spider's Lullaby. Like it's very,
Which was the next
This is
album,
very King
correct?
Diamond. Yeah, 5-year gap. Can you believe that? After, I don't know. I think Abigail came out in 87. Conspiracy must have been 89. They went right into the eye. Like that's crazy. And then took a 5-year break before their next album, and lineup changes, of course.
He
So
was probably doing a bunch of Merciful Fate stuff. I've never done the timeline
Yeah.
of King Diamond up against
yes,
Merciful
yeah.
Fate.
So 90 was the eye, and then I think the next album would have been In the Shadows, which was maybe 91 or 92, and that was the kind of rebirth of Merciful Fate there for a while. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just straight up an Andy LaRock song. Like, just it sounds like King Diamond because he is King. He's just as much King Diamond as King Diamond is,
right.
I think.
Well, and it follows a traditional kind of. This one follows a more traditional structure
Yeah.
than anything else, where you've
You
got
can tell this is a guitar player who wrote this.
right. There's intro, there's verse, there's chorus, there's this, that, the other thing, until you
Right.
get right toward the end. And that last line again, where they're nailing the baby up to the cross, that's its own riff. It comes out of fucking nowhere.
Right.
And then there's the little interlude thing, and then my favorite solo of all, which I call the wah, 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 solo.
Yeah, and that's
I
another
love that
total
part.
Andy LaRock solo doing that. He's the master of the whammy bar.
The dive at the end of that.
Yeah, so good.
And hopefully any listeners, when you do listen to this, you're listening in stereo. It does weird things in your headphones with this part.
I do have to say that my first listen through of this song, all the music after the lyrics, is what was most memorable to me. For the past few days, I'm trying to remember what the riff was, and I couldn't. And then it just triggered it that it was this song. Like everything after it, because the first time I listened to it, I was driving downtown in shit traffic and shit weather, listening to the album, and that part of but part of it particularly caught my outside of everything else. Like it just the way it changed suddenly and went to like that power metal feel.
Right.
But for some reason, it took me forever to find that until just now. But yeah, that end of it was the most memorable part of the album to me on my first listen through.
I mean, I do like that he rhymes secrecy with secrecy.
That's
So-
tough to do.
That's legit.
It is
Yeah.
interesting that he did going back to Chris's point earlier, the again and again saying it's happening over and over. Like it almost seems like he purposely did secrecy again and again for
Oh yeah, it makes sense.
But
It's-
it looks worse looking at it on paper, I think. Than
Right.
I don't think you realize how many times they say that just listening through in the song. But yeah,
But
one.
But it does reinforce that.
Well,
though.
because you just said the meetings were held in secrecy, so the evil company, would have been full of secrecy.
Right.
Again
But
and
it-
again.
Right.
Again and again, exactly.
Like,
And
how
he
many
says
times are
it-
you going to reiterate this?
Maybe
Kane?
we're looking too
We
far
get
into
it.
this. Maybe he needed 2 more beats to fill, and it's that's
That's
it.
probably it. That's probably
That's
it.
more to the point.
He's
Anyway,
like, God damn it, people! I just released an album last year, and you want me to come up with more shit
you have to be like, Jesus.
again and again? Secrecy. It sounds good. Let's go.
There it is. The meetings. All right, this next one has me confused, which is maybe the point. It's an instrumental, so I don't really have a lot of story other than it's called Insanity. It's not very insane, really.
It makes me feel like Andy LaRocque was like, "Hey, check out this cool thing I wrote." Oh yeah, we can fit that in here.
Yeah, maybe but I want it to fit the story probably more than it actually did. But
Yeah.
if this is now from the perspective of Picard, where it's a very happy song for the most part, is he?
Maybe it's the perspective of the eye.
I mean, it's still all kind of being told through the eye because as John had mentioned a couple songs ago, the eye is not really a first-person character here anymore. It's simply just showing us all of this still because presumably Madeline is still wearing it.
Cool.
Since the last thing it did was kill David, really. So, I don't know. We know that Picard is insane, and we now know what he's done, what his little secret meetings were for. I don't know. Maybe this is a musical interpretation of the only part that sounded insane, or is if you pay attention to the very end, there's this weird arpeggio thing that kind of just fades out, and it's almost like, I don't know. I'm at a loss for this one. It's a beautiful song.
But that's what kind of makes the title of it kind of fit, because it goes straight after you just crucified a baby.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's, okay, we're going to decompress a minute with this. Really not decompressing because there are a lot of things going on. So it does kind of feel like you're going through the stages of thought for somebody who's kind of lost it.
Yeah, I mean,
we lost Rob. Yep.
Oh, and again, it's that happy, the happy feeling of it is that it appeased Picard of I've done the Lord's work or whoever's work and crucified this baby and fucked all these nuns, so therefore he's now happy.
So it is from the perspective of Picard for the instrumental, or that's just what you're running with?
For some reason, I went with because it's called Insanity. The most insane one in the story so far has been Picard, so I can only assume that that's about him. I don't know. I could be way off.
I have a counter argument for you there.
Okay.
Because Madeline has gone through all this shit, and then she just saw the baby get crucified, it could be her trip into insanity as well, and finally just accepting it, that the things that she's not been able to reason with and the things that have been she hasn't been able to logically explain are now the instrumental is her kind of just acceptance of this is what it is now.
That's all right. That could be. But again, if this is not her first baby crucifixion, I don't know. It could be either. Somebody is going insane.
Right. Exactly. Somebody has lost their mind.
All right, there we got him back.
Totally.
And you're all bokeh now. Did you hang up by accident trying to fuck with your camera?
No, it disconnected. The internet died.
Oh, okay.
He was frozen for a good 10 seconds.
Yeah, no, the internet completely died. So that's
Nice.
cool. It gets out. It was the demons. It was Father Picard.
It was Father Picard in his insanity. But
He's taking over.
Anything to give listeners a heads up on then for Insanity, we're kind of at a loss. It's either Picard or Madeline. One of them is going insane. Or both, or all.
I would think Madeline, but I don't know.
Go listen, drive yourself insane. Insanity. All right, so as our Act 2 kind of rolls to a close here, the shit's coming down, man. The cops are coming. That's what's going. I don't know what cops would be. Who shut this thing down at the end of the? At the end of the. Do I have any notes on that? Was that anywhere when the French Inquisition was officially shut down, and by who?
I do not know that.
Started in 12th century.
Ended around 1670, or according to this song, 1642. I don't know. Anyway, somebody came in and said, this is all bullshit.
What are you doing?
This is all fucking bullshit. So Picard is insane. We've established that. Madeline is insane from, killing babies and taking a bunch of drugs for...
Who knows how long?
Well, at this point, what is it? She entered it in 1625, right? I love how we're doing fucking album math here. And it's 1642, according to this song. So it's like 17 years of cocaine.
Addiction? Yeah, I think that'll do it.
Back in the 1600s, when your life expectancy was probably 22 years old. I don't know actually what it was, but not a lot. Yeah, that's pretty good. Right. So anyway, somebody came in, shut it all down. According to the Louvier possessions, once again on Wikipedia, Picard was not only arrested, but publicly... No, he was killed. He had an accomplice, one of the other priests. The priest was disemboweled, I believe, publicly, or something, like some brutal murder for him. After Picard was dead, they agreed to exhume his body and then burn it. Like, he's dead. Not good enough. No, but he's dead and buried. Still not good enough. Dig him up.
Let's burn him.
So anyway, so I guess, I don't know, cutting to the chase in the story here is it's all come to an end. The fucking church police come in and say, you can't be doing this. No, babies on the cross? Nah, that's even too far for us. So they get rid of everybody. The nuns, they're talking to the nuns after they've apparently confessed to diabolic possession. What else? Why else would we do this? We must be possessed. I don't know. I've been fucking the devil.
Exactly.
So anyway, my favorite line of this is at the very end. It's the very last line, so pay attention before the ripping solos. Madeline was leaving hell in 1642. She found freedom in her prison cell. So now, no more of the bullshit. She's happy to just be in prison. Like, I did this shit. That's fine. Apparently, I'm not possessed, but I did some bad shit. So I'm just gonna get locked up, and I'm good.
It's also interesting because you mentioned the four nuns multiple times earlier.
Yeah.
He does say confession or some form of confess 3 times, and then, it's a shame, even Madeline has gone insane.
Oh,
so he throws
shit.
Like 4 little hits in there.
Confession. They confess to diabolic possession. It's a shame, even Madeline's gone insane. I like it. Or it just fit the rhythm. But I like your math. I like digging too deep.
Secrecy makes another appearance here with the sacrifice and the holy rites, and altar wine.
It does. It shows up 3 times.
Yeah.
For the 3 priests.
This is going to turn into a numerology episode, I think, at some point. I don't know if I really wanted it to be holy rice. I don't know what holy rice is, but for the first and we've mentioned in past episodes that I don't really pay attention to lyrics. But sacrifice, holy rice. I don't know. I don't know what holy rice is. I thought
it was in 1642, it persevered, not imprisonment. So
that's pretty good.
I was like, cool, in 1642, it persevered. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Whatever.
I don't know what persevered, considering the whole song is about the thing coming to an end. But it persevered.
I don't know. That's just what I heard. Imprisonment. Yeah, it's okay. It makes more sense.
Yeah.
Digging too deep, I kind of hate that you said the secrecy thing now, because 3 times it says sacrifice, holy rite, secrecy, and altar wine, and there were 3 priests. So they would have had the altar wine for all because they're priests, sacrifice, holy rites.
Yeah.
And then the 4 confessions.
Confessions. Yep.
Oh my God, Andy LaRocque, he wrote the music though. King writes all the lyrics, right?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And the music is also just quite, it's King Diamond, Hand of the Rock. The music could have fit on Abigail, it could have fit on Conspiracy. Like, it's just very Andy LaRocque, and I really hope they get back to writing like some of that in whenever they put out their next album. They're going Chinese democracy at this point.
My only other
2008, man.
my only other point on this that I've made fun of for years, and I don't know what it is. Again, didn't know what the letter was. The last verse or whatever
That
here
was the first.
in the year 1642, Madeline was leaving hell in 1642. We brought that up. There something pops through. I always thought it was like a what or a WH
Yeah.
sound, like a
I don't know how you
What?
do that with an M.
but it's an M. But listen for that; it'll stick right out. It technically sounds like the attack on the compressor was too high, so it blasted right through. But
Maybe it says
I don't know, it's
Madeline
weird.
with a silent WH.
Madeline,
Madeline was lit here.
maybe that's what it is. But anyway, I don't know. Go listen to it. End 1642 imprisonment.
Sacrifice, holy rise, the secrecy and golden wine. The black candles burning low. To their meetings again they go. The P-car can't wait to take away another soul. Oh, it's a shame, because I was so insane. In the year 1642, it came to an end. In 1642, imprisonment. Sacrifice, holy rites, secrecy and altar wine. Black death come this way, for the big guy will soon be going. He is ill, so sick, now his meetings are forever over. Oh, it's a shame, they went along with his game. In the year 1642, it came to an end. In 1642, sacrifice, holy rites, secrecy and altar wine. The nuns can't take the blame. One after one, they suffer the breakdown. Confession, confession, they confess to diabolic possession. Oh, it's a shame, even Madeline has gone insane. In the year 1642, Madeline was leaving hell. In 1642, she found freedom in a prison cell.
So rounding out the album is The Curse. This one still has me a little confused. Obviously, we're back in the narrator's perspective here. He's trying to wrap it all up.
Yeah,
There's-
like who has the necklace at this point?
Well, the narrator, whoever he or she is, whoever started the thing, this is now like,
Jean.
from their perspective. It's some dude. Present day, it could be. I don't know.
It could be. It could
But all we know at this point is if you look at it, you either die or you get to see what it has seen.
be. So How do you know if you're if you're a good person and you're looking at it, you can see what happened, but if you're a horrible person, then it kills you?
Maybe the soul of Jean de Besson, I had to get one more in there, is either learning you or killing you. I'm not sure. But then there's the line that keeps recurring is the power I get from the chain is mine. Only I can use it. Well, what power is this? Whoever has possession of it now, what power are they getting from it?
Well, they can go back in time and see things that have happened.
Right, but it's the same shit that has happened. So they just keep looking at it and keep because
it's on a loop.
Basically, I mean, it's he goes in, he says, the river's pouring down. The Inquisition came, I felt the pain, I had to relive it all in just one day. So he just keeps looking at this thing and relive. Why? I mean, that's the curse, but he's getting some power from it.
Mine says I had to relieve it all. Okay, first of all, so.
Oh, maybe. Well, everybody has to go relieve at some point, but.
All right, but and what makes me think is that maybe Jean has the eye because she's having to relive it all in just one day, like all this torture and things that she maybe experienced before she was burned.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't tell the Madeline story to that because and this goes back and says, and I'm pounding in my brain. I was drinking wine again. Yeah, blame it on the wine. So whoever is telling the story of this song is of the curse is the same person that starts us off. That starts us off on track number 1 of The Eye of the Witch.
And there's a really weird thing there where in the first song, The Eye of the Witch, it says specifically, it's so cold inside on the summer night, which summer, doesn't start until June.
Yeah.
But in the curse, it specifically says it was only the 1st of May.
Right. That's weird.
There's got to be something to that date, which I looked at that date, and that's Labor Day or something like that. So
somewhere
it's like
around there.
Yeah, so it's not like it's a specifically French holiday for the 1st of May. So I don't know.
Unless they're calling May 1st summer. I don't know. It's Black
But
Causes
technically, summer doesn't start. If you look up the start of summer, is June 21st.
Has that changed though? Is that what it is now? And maybe 400 years ago it was something else because global warming. Boom. Yeah.
Yeah.
The summer solstice. That's a good question. I wonder if there's some other sun or moon thing that happens in early May.
But that, the fact that it specifically mentions that is kind of weird. But it's almost like he flashes this in the very first song. He tells us what he saw, and then at the very end, it's like I snapped right back out of it. It's still the same thing. The thunder's still rolling by, breaking up the sky. The rain's pouring, blah blah blah. But what power? I don't understand what power he gets from the eye,
unless he time traveled.
And that's the only power? That's the power that he's talking about?
No, because it says...
Hey, that's a pretty big power, my friend.
Well, yeah but it's...
The power to see back in time, but also it says specifically, it will take you back in time. So if he started in summer in the first song, and it ends on the 1st of May in the last song after he's seen all the stuff that happened historically, he time traveled back to May 1st, maybe.
That's a stretch. That's a fucking stretch.
I'm reaching it all.
You know what? I figured out who the narrator is.
Huh.
Daniel Stern.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
I just want him to read these 2 songs now for us, the lyrics of them. I know what you're thinking. I can see through you, brain. I know what you're doing, even though I'm far away. The power I get from the chain is mine. Only I can use it.
There's also there's always also a very Tolkien-esque thing to the power I get from chain is mine. Only I can use it. Like the One Ring.
Yeah, where it's a curse and a power all at the same time.
Right. Not necessarily means anything, but it's like very like my precious type thing.
Yeah, that's almost the only thing I can take from that, because again, it's the song's called The Curse. The power I get from the chain is mine, but then there's nothing good about it. He just looks at the thing and relives all of these 2 girls' fucking pain.
I mean, and if the necklace is what is on the cover of the album, it's not even that good looking. Like, I wouldn't even want it.
Yeah, but if it had special powers, the power you get from the chain is yours, and only you could
What
use it. Wouldn't you
powers?
keep it? That's my fucking question. That's what I've been asking for 5 minutes.
I know, that's why I brought it back. I brought it right back to you.
All right, kids, we're stumped on this one. Go listen to The Curse, the final closeout track 11 of King Diamond's The Eye. Let us know at LOTD Podcast on the Twitter. Fucking email us if you want to, lotdpodcast@gmail. Call me if you want. I'm not giving you my phone number, but I don't know.
We could set up, if that's something you wanted, we could set up a Google Voice where you could leave us messages.
I don't know. Just on the socials all over the place. Facebook, fucking friend face. I don't care what you got. Let us know what you think The Curse is. Let us know that you like the album. Let us know that you like the episode. You can do all this shit on iTunes. We just fucking talked about an entire King Diamond album, my favorite King Diamond album, and now Rob's favorite King Diamond album. I'm going to superimpose and say it's John's favorite King Diamond album. We listened to it all live.
And you're definitely going to be listening to this one later, and hopefully for the rest of time.
Bye-bye, mailbox.
Miriam.